Hi, hello, and welcome to day 2 of the Rebel Challenge. How did you get on yesterday? Questioning your thoughts and noticing what was going on in your head, and maybe rebelling against a couple of your thoughts and deciding that actually, no, that's not true, or that's not helpful. I don't want to think that. So I hope you had some success and that you increased your self awareness, and that in turn gives you more choice. So what are we doing today? So today is just the next step on. So it's still about noticing your thoughts and your choices, but it's to stepping underneath, and I want you to stop blindly following the rules. I want us to have a look at what's underneath the thoughts and the decisions that we make each day. Because the rules basically rules govern everything that humans do. As a society we have rules, as a as a family, as a culture. There's so many rules that are underneath the fabric of any society, any group. Okay, that's how society functions. We couldn't really function without it. So today what I want you to do is actually to notice them and question them. So how we do that is step one, we choose an action or choice that we make, and then we start to look underneath that. Why did we make that choice? What influenced that decision or that behavior? What rules are underneath? What parts of us are speaking? And yeah, just what are the priorities, and why is this decision being made? As perfectionists, we have lots of other rules. We have just as many rules as everyone else, but some of them are really, really strong, and it's really important that we stick to them. And so we've got probably more. I don't know, I kind of call it a cage. We've got more of a cage around us, consisting of the rules and the shoulds and the shouldn'ts and the oughts and the musts and the all that kind of thing. So that's, if you start saying to yourself, I should do that or I must do that, that is definitely a sign that you've got some very strong rules about how you should behave, appropriate behavior and inappropriate behavior, good or bad behavior. Okay, so I just want you to notice that today. So choose an action or decision you've made, and then look underneath which criteria, which selves, which parts of you, which rules have influenced that decision or action. And then choose whether you agree with that and whether you want to rebel or not around that rule. So, for example, when my children were young, I realized that every time one of them said, "Oh, I'm not feeling well," or whatever, in that morning, getting ready for school morning routine, I would suddenly need to get them to school. It was like that was the only option. And it wasn't till years later that I realized I had this rule that a good mum makes their children go to school unless they're really ill, unless there's something probably wrong with them. And with children, especially young children, well, actually even teenage children, you don't know how ill they really are. So it was like my worst fear was like I would have failed. I had a rule that I would have failed as a mum if I let my child stay off school and they weren't really ill. I mean, that's a pretty random rule. I'm not entirely sure where it came from, but it's not really helpful to anyone, because it meant that when they said that, I would immediately get a little bit stressed, a bit triggered maybe. I would be real my whole attention would be on trying to work out whether they were really ill or not, and what's the right decision to make in this situation. And that switched off any compassion I would have, that loving, caring mum that will go, "Oh, honey, are you feeling unwell? What's wrong? How can I help you? What do you need? Okay, let's snuggle you up. Let's get you, a hot water bottle, or let's get you a little sit bowl, or whatever it is, or let's get some cowpole." And be really loving mum. It was kind of almost like that went out the window, because this rule was like one of my top rules. They must go to school if they are well. and you have to work out whether they're just playing you along. So anyway, I use that as an example, but I mean, that's a bigger example. There's so many smaller decisions that we have throughout the day that you could notice and what the rules are. Okay, so have a play with it. Just really question everything. Bring that inner rebel out and just kind of go, no, what would I, if I rebelled against this rule, what could happen? Would I be a more loving mum in that situation? Would I feel less stressed? If I have to tidy the kitchen before I play with my children, what's the worst that can happen if you switched it around? You know, there, there's, if I have to have a shower every day, what's the worst that can happen if you didn't have a shower and wash your hair, put makeup on before the school run? You know, again, these are still quite, big steps. I mean, it could be about what you eat a day, or when you do things, and when you're allowed to stop, and that kind of thing. So have really experiment, bring out that inner rebel today to really go, well, what rules could I break today? What could I just for today? It's not forever. What's the worst that can happen? And you choose. You might go, actually, that would be really bad. I don't, or it feels that would be really bad if I broke that rule, so I'm not going to do it, and that's fine. But there are some rules I'm sure that you are following that wouldn't matter if you broke them just for one day, just to show yourself that it's safe to break the rules sometimes. Okay. All right, then have fun with that and share what you notice and what happens in the Perfectionist Mothers HQ Facebook group. And I will see you tomorrow.